An AI predicts what Joel would have done if he'd survived The Last of Us Part 2. After the events of The Last of Us Part 2, Joel managed to survive the brutal attack from Abby. He awoke hours later, half blind, struggling to rise to his feet. He crawled his way outside and spent days slowly making his way down the Jackson Mountains. He was in no fit state to enact revenge on what had happened to him and was focused on just staying alive. In his mind, Ellie had suffered the same fate as him. Joel retreated to a remote cabin in the wilderness and, due to his severe injuries, he had to spend months recovering from his wounds, both physically and emotionally. Most of his time was spent trying to come to terms with what had happened. Several large scars across his face reminded him and that he was now alone due to the actions he took. He was consumed by feelings of guilt, anger, and sadness as he replayed the events of the past few years over and over in his mind. He couldn't escape the memories of his time with Ellie and the others, and he felt a deep sense of regret for the choices he had made. One day, Joel received a visit from a woman named Sophie. She was a former acquaintance of his and had heard that he was living in the wilderness from a passing trader. She had come to check on him and offer her support. Joel was initially hesitant to let her in, but he eventually agreed, grateful for the company. As they talked, Sophie shared with Joel that she'd lost her son many years ago. He'd been infected and she'd been unable to save him, and she told Joel that it had taken years to come to terms with her loss and had only managed it thanks to her daughter, and that she had found solace in helping others who were also grieving. Over the next few weeks, Sophie visited Joel frequently, and the two of them grew close. She listened to Joel as he opened up about his past, and she helped him to start processing his feelings. Slowly, but surely, Joel began to heal. One day, Sophie received a message about her daughter who was in trouble. She asked Joel to accompany her on the journey to help her, and he agreed. They set off into the wilderness, facing many dangers along the way, including passing through a long-abandoned school, but they were determined to reach Sophie's daughter and help her. Joel and Sophie cautiously crept through the abandoned building, his ears straining to detect any sound. Suddenly, he heard a clicker's telltale screech. He froze, heart racing as he saw the silhouette of the fungal-infected monster approaching. As it drew near, he lunged forward, grasping the pipe he'd scavenged earlier. The clicker thrashed and lunged, but Joel deftly dodged its attacks and landed a killing blow. But the sound had attracted other clickers, and they were closing in. Both Joel and Sophie darted towards the exit, dodging and fighting off the relentless swarm. Their hearts pounding, they burst into the sunlight, gasping for breath, relieved to have escaped the jaws of death once more. Eventually, they arrived at the daughter's location and found that she'd been taken by a group of raiders. Joel moved forward and instructed Sophie to find a way around the back. Joel crouched behind a rusted car, his fingers flexing around the grip of his shotgun. He could hear the raiders' coarse laughter and the sound of their boots clanging against the pavement. They were getting closer. With a deep breath, Joel peeked around the corner and fired a shot, taking down the first raider. The others scattered, but Joel was relentless, expertly dodging their attacks and returning fire. The intense battle lasted for what felt like hours, but finally, the last raider fell to the ground. Joel stood there, panting and covered in blood, feeling both relieved and shaken, but they had successfully rescued Sophie's daughter. As they made their way back home, Sophie's daughter thanked Joel for all that he'd done. She told him that he had given her family hope and that he was a true hero. Joel returned to his cabin, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in a long while. He realised that he'd found a new purpose in life and that he could use his experience and skills to help others who were in need. He also realised that, even though Ellie was gone from his life, he would always carry her with him in his heart. In the end, Joel chose to spend the rest of his days helping others and spreading kindness wherever he could. He may have lost his beloved daughter, but he'd found a new family in Sophie and her daughter, and he was grateful for the opportunity to make a difference in their lives. Despite the sadness and loss that he'd experienced, Joel found a way to heal and move forward, helping others along the way. He may have lost Ellie, but he'd gained something much more valuable: the chance to make a positive impact on the world. We hope you enjoyed this episode of our AI prediction series, and if you have any parts of gaming you'd like to see an AI predict, let us know in the comments below. Remember to follow us for more gaming content.